We've come to the end of October and the Kings are 2-2, and I'm doing something new this season where at the end of every month, the members on this channel get to vote on who they think was the player of the month. And whoever gets the majority of that vote, then I will make a video on at the end of the month. So if you want to vote in the future, you can become a member just like Joe Mama and No Rain. Shout out to them. And you can be part of deciding who gets talked about in the video at the end of the month. And now obviously this was a very short month, so it's different than any of the other ones. We have a pretty small sample size to go on, but the vote broke down like this. Obviously with only 2 members, there was always likely going to be a tie. So it was between Sabonis and Herter, but the tie got broken because the person who voted for Herter said that it was probably Sabonis because of the stats. So I'm taking that as half a vote. So Sabonis wins, I would say 1.5 votes to 1 vote for Kevin Herter. Kevin Herter has been very good, coming into the starting lineup when most people thought that he wouldn't start, coming back from injury and playing really well. So, I think deservedly gets a vote there, probably just based on expectations. But Sabonis is having an incredible start to the season, first 4 games, again, very small sample size. The statistics are amazing so far for Sabonis. Matt Issa tweeted that Sabonis is the first player in NBA history to start his first 4 games averaging at least 24 points per game, 11 rebounds, 5 assists on 75% true shooting. And Sabonis has always had crazy statistical seasons and stretches, right? We all know about his triple doubles, his double doubles, and that's great and all. But there's a lot more to it than just the statistics of it. Obviously, most of this video is going to be spent talking about the offensive end of the floor, which is great. But we do have to shout out what he's been doing defensively in these first 4 games. He's been very good defensively. The way he's been able to get out, up on screens, not let opposing guards get downhill, get into the paint, providing the rim protection that he can provide in the paint, just being a big body in there, and deterring teams from getting super deep into the paint. I think that's an underrated aspect of his defense, is just how strong he is. He's not going to get pushed around inside. He's not going to get sealed off by another big man. He almost always is going to have the better positioning inside just because of his strength. I think when you look at him as an overall player, I would say he's an above average defender, which he doesn't get credit for. Maybe positionally, he's about average because you expect more from a center defensively usually. They have a bigger impact on the defense generally. So you could say he's average, but he gets disrespected for the defensive side of the ball when he definitely doesn't deserve that because he's been good. The Kings defense as a whole has been good, especially the Kings starting unit, who have, I believe, the best defensive rating of any 5-man units that have played 30 plus minutes together so far this season. So for anyone saying that Sabonis cannot anchor a good defense, that has been proven wrong time after time after time. Coming into this season with the addition of DeMar DeRozan, I thought Sabonis's point per game average would stay about the same, that 19 to 20 point per game average. But so far, he's elevated that to 24 points per game. We don't know what the future of this season holds. There may be times when he's not scoring as much, definitely based on matchups. The Kings have so many different ways that they can go about scoring, so he may come down a bit in terms of scoring. In fact, I would expect him to come down from 24 points per game. But the reason that I thought his points per game would stay about the same is because 2 things would happen that would kind of cancel each other out. One, he would be forcing things less, or have to force things less, and have to have the ball in his hands less to go create a shot for himself because of the addition of DeMar DeRozan, and that has been very true. He has not had to go into the post in unnecessary situations. He only goes in when he has a good matchup and he feels confident. He only attacks when he feels like he can actually score. There's no more really of these moments where the Kings offense is getting nothing and he just has to go one-on-one with someone. If he doesn't feel like he can score, then he's not going to have to go and try to score. But I thought that would be canceled out by an increase in efficiency due to being able to play off of DeMar DeRozan attracting attention, and him being able to find Sabonis inside for better looks. Sabonis is just better when he's, not the primary scorer. And so I thought those things would kind of cancel out and he would hover around the same points per game. But I think kind of what's happened is those two things have canceled out, and he has benefited from DeMar attracting attention. But now his efficiency has reached a whole nother level that I didn't think he would get to. And obviously that could come down. But around the rim, he's finishing everything. He's always been a good finisher. He has been on another level to start this season. But then it's his jump shot as well. Mike Brown talked about wanting him to take more three-point shots. He was efficient from the three-point line last season on about an attempt per game. And so while I thought that, sure, it was something that the Kings could try and he could take more three-point shots, I was definitely a bit skeptical. I thought more of the attempts would probably come in the mid-range. But he has started off this season shooting super well from three, obviously over 50% right now. Of course, that will come down. But really, it's the way that he's shooting these shots. Last season, he didn't shoot corner threes at all. Now the Kings have him stationed in the corner. They do it with Alex Len as well, but they have him stationed in the corner. We didn't see him take any corner threes last season. I think he made one all of last season, so he's already surpassed that. But not only is he taking different types of threes, but he's doing it in important moments. And that's really what I think he lacked last season, was when it came to clutch time last season, he just looked scared to shoot. He always wanted to defer to De'Aaron Fox. And it's like, in some moments, fair enough, but now it's like, you're now adding DeMar DeRozan. So that's another option that he could defer to, and no one would really think twice about it. But against the Lakers, when the Kings were coming back, he hit a super clutch corner three, zero hesitation. There's been zero hesitation on any of the shots that he hasn't taken. If he doesn't like the pass that comes to him and he's not in rhythm, he's not going to take the three. He hasn't become that type of shooter. But if he gets that pass, he's open and it's in rhythm, he's going to take it at all different times of the shot clock, but especially if it's late in the shot clock, which has been a problem before, where he would have an open look, there'd be 6 seconds on the shot clock, and he goes and tries to, start a dribble handoff. And that was never good because there's only 6 seconds on the shot clock. There's just not enough time for that. And the same can be said for mid-range jumpers. It doesn't just apply to the three-point shot. And so that's just going to increase the Kings' overall efficiency when he's taking shots when he needs to take those shots late in the shot clock, because if he tries to give it to someone else, it's just not going to be as efficient of a shot as if he's taking it himself. And another thing he's doing is when he is in the mid post area and there's someone in the corner and they're trying to cut off of him, a lot of times based on the action that the Kings are running, the defender who is defending the guy in the corner will lose the guy in the corner. And so that makes Sabonis's defender, drop back a bit into the paint to try to cut off that pass. And what Sabonis is doing is he's just taking that mid-range jump shot. And I don't think he's missed one yet when he's done that. Maybe he has. It doesn't seem like he has. And that was just something, I wanted him to be able to take these shots late in the shot clock. I didn't think he would become this confident shooting ever. I thought he kind of was what he was. We just needed him to take a few more jumpers late in the shot clock. But now he's just doing it at all times of the shot clock and being very efficient at it. Hopefully he can keep that up. He just seems like he's within the flow of the entire offense. And that is really what's made him super efficient. There are still some things, the Kings offense is not in its final evolution, right? And I think when he has the ball, he always is looking like he's within the flow of the offense. There's some things that he needs to figure out about what to be doing, especially when DeMar DeRozan has the ball. But that's just going to come with time. We're only 4 games in. One super interesting stat that Deuce Mason brought up on Twitter is the touches per game numbers for the Kings. Last season, as you would expect, Sabonis led the team in touches per game at 91.5. De'Aaron was at 81.4. The next most was Monk at 52.8. And that's very reasonable, right? Everything in this offense ran through Sabonis. It was all dribble handoff actions. It made sense. But this season, that number has gone way down. And now, like I said before, we are not in the final evolution of this offense. So I think his numbers could go back up. But right now, he's at 64.5 touches per game, and Fox is at 77.5, DeRozan 54.3, Keegan 51. So his numbers gone way down. Fox's have increased. And I think there's a lot of ways to read into these numbers. But I think the way that I read into it so far, I'm sure these numbers will change, but so far, I feel like it shows that the Kings have a more well-balanced attack. They don't just rely on one thing as much. Sabonis's assist numbers have come down with those touch numbers. That correlation makes sense, and that's fine. I think the offense is less reliant on him. They're still pretty reliant on him, and you can see that when he goes out of the game. It's not always pretty, and they still need to figure that out. But I think when he's in the game, they're relying on him less, and the offense has become more efficient. I think it's only going to get more efficient as the season goes on. But I think so far they've found a nice balance between the isolation style of DeMar DeRozan and, the fast-paced style of the Kings. But I think they need, we haven't seen them too many times in clutch games. I mean, we saw it in the first two. It looked good in the Lakers game. They looked good, but they didn't look good in the Minnesota game. So that's kind of the next step, is what the end of the game offense looks like with him. And I still want to see him super involved at the end of games. I'm kind of surprised at how little we've seen the DeRozan Sabonis pick and roll, because DeRozan ran a lot of pick and roll with the Bulls. Now, obviously, he doesn't need to run it as much, and that makes sense. But at the end of games, you can still utilize that. I feel like they've been isolating a little too much late in games. When I was making my one stat to watch per player going into this season, Sabonis's was how many assists is he going to get from DeMar DeRozan? Because I thought they would utilize that pick and roll more. I thought Sabonis would get easier looks inside because DeRozan attracts attention. Of course, that's not always going to come as a direct assist from DeRozan. And in fact, it could be coming from Sabonis getting an offensive rebound because DeMar attracts attention, and then that frees Sabonis up inside to get the rebound. But I'm surprised at how little they've really utilized that pick and roll. DeRozan has only assisted Sabonis 3 times. And so that's kind of why I think that we're not, this offense hasn't been fully fleshed out. We're going to see more than what we've seen in these first 4 games. We're going to see different things. And I hope they utilize Sabonis more late in games than I feel like they have. And Sabonis was great in trying to come back against the Lakers in the fourth quarter. And he was a massive part of us coming back. But in that Timberwolves game, when it was closer for a longer stretch, I feel like they didn't utilize him enough. Good things happen when you give him the ball. And so I just think they need to give him the ball more in those situations. But I think the rest of the game has been very good so far. What I found very interesting, something kind of about DeMar DeRozan, is how the Bulls are now playing a super fast-paced run and gun style, which they didn't under DeMar. And with DeMar, it was all, walk the ball up the court, pick and roll, isolation. And that's why I think DeMar coming to the Kings is nice, because it's like 2 opposite ends of the spectrum coming together. And Sabonis is such a big part of kind of helping DeMar's game, where DeMar maybe doesn't always play super fast, but Sabonis is kind of the perfect center for him, where Sabonis is always going to push the pace. And so pretty much what I'm saying is I think there is more to this Sabonis and DeMar relationship that we haven't seen yet. So far it's looked good, but I think it can look even better. But man, what a start to the season it has been for Sabonis. 68% from the field, averaging 24.3 points per game. 54.5% from 3. 76% from the free throw line. We'll take that, and his free throw shooting has looked good. Obviously, the 11 rebounds, 5.5 assists. Sabonis didn't make the All-Star game last year, and one of the biggest snubs of all time, no doubt. But he made All-NBA. He's well on his way to another All NBA season. And I mean, if he keeps this up, he's easily making the All-Star game. The Kings' record is obviously going to come into play a little bit with that. I just love it because I think a lot of it is sustainable. Obviously not the 55% three-point shooting. I'm sure his finishing will come down a little bit. His points will come down a little bit. But he just looks so confident. And he looks like he has taken his game to the next level in these first 4 games, at least, of the season. And he's just such a fun player to watch. And if you don't think Sabonis is a fun player to watch like many non-Kings fans say, then I feel sorry for you because you're just missing out. Before this season started, I was watching a Sabonis rebound compilation, and I was having a great time doing it. Anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. Again, shout out to the members for picking Sabonis, No Rain, Joe Mama for supporting the channel. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.